There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. It's Monday, and it's time for a brand new edition of Supernatural News in ParaShare here on the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, sitting in over at the Supernatural News desk. Mr. Tim Dennis, I hope that you had a great and safe and happy weekend, Mr. D.
I did. I had a very good weekend. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, I had a strange week. We're going to get into that a little bit later in my ParaShare segment, Tim. I've been waiting to tell you this story.
Okay.
I've been looking for a message from my mom.
Okay.
And I may have gotten the biggest one ever. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's get started with some of the other strange supernatural news from around the world. Where shall we begin tonight?
Well, Dave, here's what I'm going to do. I've started a new year of life. You know,
okay.
I had my birthday this past actually last weekend. So I'm going to act. What's up?
46, right?
Sure.
46?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, 47, 46, well, somewhere in that neighborhood, right?
29. So I'm going to acquiesce to you and actually admit that I'll give you one here.
Yes, okay.
Just one.
All right.
You get 1 point in the ever-mounting win that I'm getting here in the Skynet versus zombie battle.
Right.
Because it seems like there's like 18 stories having to do with Skynet every week, and occasionally you get a zombie story. I'll give you one here this week.
Okay.
How does that sound?
What have you got for me? Well, it would be nice of you to report, my side of the stories instead of just hiding them all the time. Sure, let's hear the real news instead of your fake news all the time, Tim. I got you.
There's no fake news here, Dave. I'm not hiding them.
Oh, really, Tim? Really?
There's
no fake news?
They're just not out there.
I think they are, Tim. They're just more cleverly hidden from us, from the mainstream media, because they don't want us to know of them. You see, what they're trying to do is distract us with sci-fi silliness of the potential of Skynet, so that we don't know about the oncoming onslaught of the zombie apocalypse.
Oh,
Tim.
That's what it is.
I'm glad you can finally see it for what it is, Tim.
I just think there's no zombies.
Whatever. Well, you said you had a story. Let's hear it and let us decide for ourselves.
I do. But the quote here in the headline is zombie dogs, quote unquote.
That's how it starts, Tim.
Right. Zombie
dogs. Because we know the zombie virus is nothing more than a twisted version of rabies.
Well, I think you're reaching now.
Ridiculous, sir. Ridiculous.
Roaming near Chicago are infected coyotes, according to police. So,
oh, my God.
Yeah, they might not
This is how it begins, Tim. This is how it begins.
I don't know. And there's also an ad in the story having to do with Charmin bears. So I think they're zombies as well. I don't know what the two have to do with each other, to be honest with you. Police are warning residents of a Chicago suburb to avoid helping zombie dogs because they are infected coyotes that could sicken other pets with the disease. Hanover Park Police Department is
Hanover Park, Tim. Yeah. I used to hang out there.
I know.
I knew that would be the nexus stop for the beginning of the end, Tim.
See?
I've been to Hanover Park. I can tell you it is the beginning of the end right there.
You never.
Please direct all your email to dave@darknessradio.com if you are a Hanover Park listener and pissed off at me for saying that. But I know what the truth is, Hanover Park. I've been there. All right. Park. So there are wild zombie coyotes in Hanover Park.
Well, yeah, there's Sick coyotes. Hanover Park Police Department posted the warning on its Facebook page on Wednesday, saying the coyotes, usually nocturnal animals, are infected with sarcoptic mange that causes them to be active in the day.
Oh, my God. Yeah. This is how it begins.
No. Infected animals will often appear mangy, which looks just like it sounds, by the way. They suffer hair loss and develop secondary infections, eventually looking like some sort of zombie dog, in quotes, according to the police department. They even have little pictures on their Facebook page. It's kind of cute. They have regular coyotes, and then they have the mangy coyotes, which look like zombies. Police say the infected coyotes aren't typically aggressive, but warn residents in the area to avoid them and keep them away from their pets, who can catch the contagious disease. Please do not approach these animals or allow your pets to approach them. You can avoid attracting them to your yards and neighborhoods by not leaving food out and by securing your garbage, the department said. It's common to spot coyotes in Illinois, especially in the southern, southeastern, and west central parts, according to the Department of Natural Resources, though there hasn't been a reported case of coyotes biting humans in northeastern Illinois. Although Hanover Park, it looks like you're next.
That's how it all begins, man. I can smell the end from here.
Or is that just Hanover Park you're smelling? No. See what I did there?
Brutal.
I know. I have a way of doing that. So there you go. I gave one to you.
See, it's the beginning. I don't know how you're just dismissing it so easily, Tim.
It's because
it's the beginning. You have to have a genesis point. You have to have a patient zero, and obviously the infected zombie coyotes are the way this is going to begin. If he just would have stopped ordering things from Acme, Tim, the Acme zombie virus is what got him.
You know who's going to stomp out the mangy coyotes, though?
Who's that?
Skynet.
Shut up. Yeah. You don't know nothing.
Probably going to happen.
Nothing.
Yeah.
All right. Where are we going next?
Actually, we'll go to a haunting of a famous variety. Ginger Rogers' ghost haunting childhood house, says the new... I read that wrong. I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
All right. Let's try take two. Where are we going next, Tim?
We're going to Ginger Rogers' childhood house, where her ghost is supposedly haunting it, at least according to the new homeowner. Marge Paget believes that she's living with the ghost of an old Hollywood star in her new home. The new homeowner, who recently purchased Ginger Rogers' childhood house in Missouri, told Closer Weekly, by the way, the magazine is only for closers. That's a Glenn Ross reference. That she reportedly witnessed the spirit of the late actress in the home. Rogers, born Virginia Catherine McMath, passed away in 1995 at the age of 83 of natural causes. Paget insisted, I was standing in the room she was born in, and I felt this presence. I watched a foggy mist turn into a woman in a ball gown that looked like Ginger. She had a pleasant look on her face. While Rogers was born in Independence, she later found fame in Hollywood, where she enjoyed a lasting career in film and television from the 1930s until the late 1980s. Rogers was famous for her glamorous get-ups, which were often featured in her musical films alongside her co-star Fred Astaire. We had fun and it shows, Rogers previously said about her popular dance partner. True, we were never bosom buddies off the screen. We were different people with different interests. We were a couple only on film. I'd do 3 or 4 pictures between those I made with Fred. We weren't Siamese twins. I always wanted to stretch out and do some things as me, alone by myself. While many may find Paget's claim outrageous, fans will have a chance to see for themselves. Paget added that she was turning Rogers' former home into a museum in hopes of preserving her Hollywood legacy. Paget went on to say, I get the feeling she's happy that we're doing this. There you go.
Oh, well, a happy dead Ginger Rogers is better than an unhappy one, Tim. That's what I always say.
That is true.
I've never actually said that before, but I figured it was a good time to start.
Well, it's a good slogan. I like it. I'm fully behind it.
I appreciate that. All right. Where are we going next?
Well, this one's an unusual story, Dave, and I know as a father, this one's going to maybe scare the heck out of you as much as it may the kids who are trying it. It's called the 3 a.m. challenge.
After this past week, I'm not sure anything can scare me, Tim. All right. The 3 a.m. challenge, you say?
The 3 a.m. challenge. It's the latest social craze that's waking kids up at night for likes. Now, this may seem a little bizarre, but, back in the day we had, forgive the terminology, we had games like Ding Dong Ditch and stuff like that. You'd get up in the middle of the night, you'd go run around the neighborhood, you'd, ring doorbells and stuff like that, and you'd cause trouble, right?
In the middle of the night? What kind of hooligans were you? We just did it when it was dark out.
You didn't get up in the middle of the night?
No. Oh. God, what kind of freak show town did you live in?
Well, getting
up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, you didn't get up in the middle of the night.
You go ding dong and then you ditch. No. I wanted to sleep in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night. No, Tim, I didn't get up in the middle of the night.
Sleep in the middle of the night?
Yeah, that's what we do.
You didn't stay up all night at slumber parties and stuff?
Slumber party? I'm a boy. I didn't have slumber parties, Tim.
Oh, sure. You get your buddies together, you stay up all night.
Oh, closest thing I had to slumber parties was in high school with you and a bag of Oreos and some red Kool-Aid, I think, is the closest I ever had to real slumber parties.
Well, but those are fun.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So, okay, go on now.
Right.
Where are we going with this?
So we go to Charlotte, North Carolina. Your child could be waking up in the middle of the night to film videos, even leaving the house, all while you sleep, and you may not even know about it. It's all thanks to the newest social media craze called the 3 a.m. challenge. And experts say it's downright scary. Now, kids as young as kindergartners now are waking themselves up in the middle of the night and sneaking off, hoping to catch paranormal activity on camera. Think of it this way. You're probably buying your phones too young for your kids. It's all your fault.
Obviously.
Yeah.
What?
Well, I'm just, I'm throwing that in.
What kindergartner? I have a kid in third grade. There's no way he would go outside at night, especially in search of the paranormal. And he's Darkness Dave's son.
Well, you never know.
What the hell? I don't. Oh, good grief.
Debbie Breen, a licensed family counselor with South Charlotte Family Counseling, says that's really frightening as a parent. 3 a.m., the witching hour, that's just really dangerous for kids. The goal of the challenge is to wake up at 3 in the morning, catch something scary on video, then post it to YouTube. This is just setting a dangerous precedent, I think, said Eric Goldfield, a licensed child counselor who specializes in the impact of social media. The biggest role models now for teens and young people are YouTubers. These are who our kids are looking up to, and they're going to want to emulate that behavior. Every night, children are waking up, literally seeking out danger, all for likes. This is critical for parents, Breen said. You need to talk with your kids about it. While the children may see a challenge that's all in good fun, sneaking off in the middle of the night without mom or dad, that's what real nightmares are made of. Just because everybody else is allowing their kid to go wander the neighborhood at 3 a.m., be okay with saying no, Goldfield said. Say no, I'm going to put a stop to this. I don't know anybody who's okay with their kid wandering the neighborhood at 3 a.m.
No.
At all.
This sounds insane.
I don't know anybody who's ever said, hey, you know what, Johnny, go ahead. Go check out the neighborhood at 3 a.m. Speaking of scary, Dave, I know for a fact that last Thursday night, you checked out our Minnesota Vikings against the Miami Dolphins. And let me tell you something, my friend. Even though it was preseason football and it was our scrubs versus their scrubs, our let's just put it this way, the bottom part of our roster didn't look that good. And a lot of those guys are gone now. We're down to 53, and the real NFL season is about to begin. And that means
I got to ask you quick, Tim.
Sure.
Real quickly on that. Didn't it used to be where you'd had the scrubs play in the first couple of games, and by the time you got to the fourth game, you were kind of getting down to your starters, and you'd get more of your starting quarterback and everybody? Or did I trip a line here and jump realities in the Mandela effect world we live in?
I think you jumped that line, my friend.
See, I remember it specifically that we had the huge roster for the first 2 or 3 games, and as we're paring it down, we're getting to the team that we're going to see for regular season, and by our fourth game, usually the first half of the game was all of our starters, and then in the second half, it was our scrubs.
Nope, you never play your starters in the fourth game because you're saving them for the first game of the season.
I have jumped realities. That's all I can tell you, but thankfully, Tim, for those people that actually know about football and want to make a living having fun with football, what have you got going?
Well, here's the deal. You want to make things interesting for this season, and judging by the way things might have gone with the Minnesota Vikings this preseason, we might have to do a little something extra to make it interesting. Minnesota Vikings have Adrian Peterson and the New Orleans Saints coming up on Monday Night Football in a week from tonight.
Wow.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We want to make it a little interesting, Dave. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a little money on it with BetDSI. BetDSI,
yes.
I know. This is where we put a little action on it. And I got an idea here that our defense is going to totally stifle Adrian Peterson. They're going to put him out there. They're going to put the big purple wall up. Boom, nothing. Nothing's going to happen with Adrian Peterson. BetDSI.com has been in business for over 20 years, paying off winners like Dave and myself. Because we're going to win this coming Monday. I'm just telling you right now.
All right, I'm willing to take that shot. Let's do it.
We're going to do it. A+ rated on sportsbook review sites all over. Check it out for yourself. Use your sports knowledge to make some extra cash right now. It's an easy-to-use mobile playing interface. It's this easy, Dave. You play, win, and get paid. That's simple.
I like the sound of that. Yeah, that's really simple.
Yes, it is. BetDSI offers odds on everything football, including live betting and props as games are in action. BetDSI offers odds on pretty much everything else, too, Dave. You don't have to bet on major sports, but you can, all major sports. You can also bet on politics and, believe it or not, my friend, reality TV. If you want to put a bet on how big Kim Kardashian's butt's going to get, you can do it at BetDSI.
Very cool. Well, see, now there's stuff I'm into. Football, I'm horrible, but I would love, and I'm trying to get better with fantasy football and understanding. I love to watch the game, Tim. I love to immerse myself, but whatever I bet on never seems to go my way. But now it sounds interesting to me. And knowing that I can bet on other things, I'm certainly going to start to take a bigger notice of this.
That's right. BetDSI.com lets you bet on pretty much everything that's out there. All you got to do right now is use promo code Darkness25 and get a $25 free wager just for registering. And if you decide to deposit, you'll get a 200% bonus match on your money. 200%.
A 200% bonus match?
Yes, you do.
You'd be an idiot not to do that.
Now, I'll tell you, I've already played there myself last couple of weeks. I've been, dabbling a little bit with the Vikings and other preseason football. And I put on a little money on the Money Mayweather and Conor McGregor fight. And I recommend BetDSI if you want to add a little extra excitement to your games that you're watching, because I'll tell you, it gets you a little more into it. You're going to want to try it yourself. Once again, go to BetDSI.com, use the promo code Darkness25, and get a free $25 wager on the house and 200% extra bonus when you deposit. That's Darkness25 to get your free wager and start winning today. And by gosh,
I could hear the people cheering when you said that. That sounds like a great deal.
It is. It's a huge deal. BetDSI.com. You got to check it out. And NFL season's right around the corner. You've got other things as well coming up that, by gosh, make it interesting. Don't just sit around and slough from one game to the other on Sunday.
Right. Have a little bit of fun with it. If you got a little bit of expendable cash, why not throw it that way? All right, where are we going to go next in the world of supernatural news?
Well, speaking of putting money on something, paranormal proof is out there, according to an Australian skeptics. He's putting, actually, there's a $100,000 prize still unclaimed 37 years later. This is the kind of money that BetDSI might want to get in on, too. There's a $100,000 prize waiting for you if you can read minds, see the future, or talk to the dead in Australia.
Woohoo! Hot damn, sign me up. Finally something I'm good at.
As long as you can prove it, that is. Yeah. You submit your superpower to scientific testing, and if you'll pass, you'll be the first to win the prize, and it's 37-year history. The Australian skeptics have offered the money to be awarded to anyone who can prove they have psychic or paranormal powers since it was founded in Melbourne in 1980. You'll get a lot of claims about people being able to read people's minds or heal people from a distance, Australian skeptics Victoria's Terry Kelly said, adding that most have balked at the challenge of confirming their claim. It actually has to be proven in the way that any other scientific claim would be proved. With their focus on science, you might expect most active skeptics to be doctors, scientists, or academics, but Mr. Kelly, for example, is a social worker who joined the movement 20 years ago after seeing unscrupulous people take advantage of his grieving clients. You had people who had lost a child going off to see clairvoyants, claiming the clairvoyant had spoken to their dead child, he said. Mr. Kelly said many of those active in the skeptics community were comedians, professional gamblers, or magicians. Comedians, he said, make a living out of seeing through BS. I'll use the abbreviated version, Dave. And the movement counted names such as Tim Minchin among its supporters. Professional gamblers were rarely superstitious, Mr. Kelly said, and understand about probability and chance. Magicians have to balance their work as skeptics with their professional code, which demands they never reveal their tricks to the public. Groups of magicians sometimes excuse themselves from skeptics' meetings to hold private discussions about how a display of the paranormal might have been faked. Canadian-American magician James Randi, who we've had on the program long ago, launched Australian Skeptics when he was brought out by entrepreneur Dick Smith to test the claims of water diviners. The then $50,000 prize was short of the U.S. $1 million offer by Randy's own foundation. However, it has not been on offer since Randy's retirement in 2015. Water diviners have since been the most active participants in the $100,000 challenge, as it is known, submitting their dowsing techniques to scientific testing on several occasions without success. West Australian water diviner Ziggy Zika has expressed concern that dowsing may become a lost skill, as speculation about the practice is turning all the new recruits away. Now, paying the winner would be worth the money, according to this article. Mr. Kelly said there have been fewer challengers for the prize in recent years, and Australian skeptics groups have been focused on debunking claims by homeopathy practitioners and anti-vaccine campaigners. The $100,000 is still up for grabs, however, with a number of benefactors guaranteeing the prize. They're reasonably confident that they won't have to contribute, so it's not that big of a risk as far as they're concerned, according to Mr. Kelly. If anyone did actually prove some sort of paranormal power, it would change things so dramatically in certain areas, they probably would consider it worth paying the money. So there you go.
Oh, so they're putting up all this money, making it sound like a big deal, but they don't ever expect to pay out.
Exactly.
So I doubt, I wonder if they did a forensic analysis of this. Do they even have the money?
I don't know. That's a good question. In Randy's case, he did have the money. He'd be able to provide you a bank statement.
Yeah, he was doing $1 million, though, right? That was $1 million here in the United States.
Right.
But I wonder about that one when they're making it sound kind of like, well, we'll worry about the money if you prove it to us. Kind of sounds like, no, you prove to me you have the money first, and then we'll worry about it. That's crazy. Yeah. All right, where are we going next, sir?
In this one, Jadu is calling. Not Erica Jadu. She's an R&B artist.
No, that was Badu, too. Erica Badu.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Scientists detect radio signals from a faraway galaxy and believe it's a signal of intelligent life. And we're not talking about intelligent life from across the globe. This is across the universe. Remember the X-Files, Federal Bureau of Investigation Special Agents Fox Mulder and Dana Scully, who were on a mission to investigate the sidelined and unsolved cases involving paranormal phenomena? Well, one-liners that sent chills down the spine included, "They're not coming, they're here. The truth is still out there." And the most prolific, "The truth is out there?" with a question mark. Well, that was a science fiction drama series for television. But what we're discussing here is the real X-Files level news. Scientists have detected radio signals coming from a galaxy about 3 billion light years away, and they believe this could be a signal of intelligent life other than us in the universe. Breakthrough Listen is an initiative to search for signs of intelligent life in the universe and has detected 15 fast radio bursts, or FRBs. Those are FRBs, by the way, Dave. I had to do
Is that what they are?
They are. They're FRBs.
From a couple of those after a long night of drinking and eating fast food.
Oh, yeah. A little bit of Taco Bell will do that to you. From distant galaxies emanating from an unexplained source. Breakthrough Listen is a global astronomical initiative launched by internet investor and philanthropist, which is a hard word for me, evidently, Yuri Milner, and cosmologist Stephen Hawking in 2015 as part of their program to observe nearby stars and galaxies for signs of extraterrestrial technology. And when a name as big as Stephen Hawking is directly involved in the project, it ought to be taken seriously, according to this article. Breakthrough Listen has been looking to prove the existence of other intelligent life in the universe and now says that 15 bursts of radio emission were detected at their Green Bank telescope in West Virginia. August 26th was the day that Breakthrough Listen detected 15 bursts for 5 hours. FRBs, or FRBs, are brief, bright pulses of radio emission from distant galaxies, according to the statement from Breakthrough Listen. The chief scientists behind the discovery include some of the world's top astrophysicists as well as members of SETI. And I believe that's the story. It just ends like that, Dave. Just a quick
that'll
FRB.
show us.
Yeah.
Interesting. So they're getting some recurring. How come that's not mainstream news? You would think that would be of interest, and you would think certainly they would want to deflect stories that are being covered in the news right now and cover something like that. That's weird that we're not hearing about it.
Very weird, yeah. That should have been mainstream news.
Yeah. All right. And I do want to make a quick mention. I want to ask all of our listeners across this great planet of ours tuning into the show, can you please keep all of the areas being hit by these hurricanes and recurrent bad weather storm patterns in your prayers and thoughts? There's been a lot of death and unbelievable amount of damage that's being done. We also have raging wildfires in California and in Montana. So if you can keep these places in your thoughts and prayers, let's blow some of that rain over to the Montana area and California to help put out these fires. Just focus on rain sating the ground, soaking it in California and Montana so that the fires are snuffed out, and just focus love, patience, and strength and wisdom to all of the people that are dealing with the hurricanes and the damage that have been done. You are in our thoughts and prayers. I know we have many friends and listeners around the United States that are being adversely affected by this. So just know that Dave and Tim are thinking about you, and you are in our prayers right now. All right, Tim, where shall we go next?
We're going to Britain, Dave, where a passenger plane has a near miss with a UFO just 200 feet away over a British airport.
Oh, I just came back from England. Why didn't I get to see something like that?
Did you really want to come within 200 feet?
Yes, because then I'd be able to see it.
Wasn't the flight to Sault Ste. Marie enough for you?
Yeah, that was a little creepy. On our flight over to Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan for the Michigan Paracon, we landed in Detroit, got on the plane to Sault Ste. Marie from Detroit. We got about 20 minutes in the air, and then we hear, folks, I'm sorry to, this is your captain. I'm sorry to deliver this news to you, but it seems our number 2 engine is failing, and we don't have any mechanics on the ground in Sault Ste. Marie, so we're going to turn around and hope to put it back down in Detroit. So we're going to be in the air for about another 20, 25 minutes, so just bear with us, and we'll try to get you on your way as soon as we can. How do you sound calm when, our number 2 engine is failing?
Well, there's a whole nother one.
I know. Well, you got to hold on. Doesn't that uneven the plane out? I don't know. Do we tip sideways so we're just flying on the one engine? Yeah. It was unnervingly calm. Although I kind of would love to hear, ladies and gentlemen, it seems the shit has hit the fan, and we've lost one of our engines. If you know the person next to you, it's a good time to start kissing, holding, and cuddling. If you don't, it's time to get to know that person and start kissing, hugging, and cuddling, because I don't know if we're going to pull out of this shit. That would be a kind of message I'd like to hear, just so I get the reality of it. So I did personally. I know you were sitting behind me. I snuggled up to the fiance, and we spent a lot of time snuggling and kissing, waiting to land. But was that not unnerving? Every time you heard any kind of noise, I was just like, we're going to watch our wing blow off. We're going to watch an explosion on our engine. And then, you know what really unnerved me too, Tim?
Well, it was that.
We landed, and they happen to have an extra plane. And they just pulled it over, and we get into a plane that looks identical to the plane we just got off on.
Yeah.
We had to go to a different gate. How do we know, Tim, that they didn't just pull our defective plane around to another gate?
I think it was because I saw my gum on the back of the seat on the second plane.
Did you really?
Yeah.
It was the same plane?
Same plane, same gum, same everything. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I think they just forgot to put gas in it. Was what it was.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you notice that this plane looks a lot like your last plane, that's because we went to all the rights to just make sure that it was exactly like your last plane. We even put gum on the back of the seats where you left it. So don't worry. This isn't the same plane. We should be safe for hopefully the next 40 minutes.
You're busily snuggling up to the fiance. I had Tim Shaw next to me, the Reverend Tim Shaw.
You got a holy man, Tim. At least he's there to help pray your way in.
Well, actually, I was
the big man.
I was busy wishing for death, if that was the deal. Whether it was snuggling up to Tim or dying from a failed engine, I was praying to God that we'd go quickly. So yeah, it was.
I was flying to another conference about 8 years ago in Penn State. And it was scary, dude. It was, again, one of those where we flew into Pittsburgh and then we had to fly from Pittsburgh into Penn State College Airport, which is a strip mall, basically. And we're flying and this plane is shaking so hard. I kid you not. This is exactly what comes over after about 10, 15 minutes of this rough flight. Like we are just getting banged around like we are being used as a ping pong ball in some cosmic game. This is what I hear. I kid you not. Folks, this is the captain from the deck. And as you can tell, we're dealing with some severe turbulence up here. So if everybody could just sit down, put your seatbelts on, and oh, that's what he says. Oh, and then he goes, "We're going to try to land safely as soon as we can." And then he cuts off, and we all look at each other like, "We're going to try to land safely." So, Tim, it was the most amazing kumbaya moment. Everybody in the aisle started holding hands with the person in this aisle seat across from them. None of us knew each other.
Wow.
And everybody's just holding hands and in this dead silent prayer. And then the flight attendant comes on. Folks, we're going to discontinue the service for the rest of this plane ride. We're not going to be giving you drinks, although you probably need them at this point. We're going to we're just going to sit down and hope for the best here. All right?
Wow.
For the best here? And I said that out loud. I go, hope for the best here? And everybody on the plane's like, ha, 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 ha. Oh, God, dude, that was the roughest. And it was only like a 40-minute flight. It felt like 4 hours. And literally, we felt like we were being in a bumper car world, man. This plane, and I know they say that no plane has gone down from turbulence. Mm-hmm. This plane felt like it was going to go down. And especially when your captain sounds nervous. Yeah, we're going to try to land. Try to land. What are our other choices? Not land? That doesn't sound any better. Oh, God. Oh, terrific. All right. Anyway, let's get back to it. What have we got next?
Well, we're going to a space over the Glasgow airport where there's a bit of a near miss.
A near miss.
A tiny near miss. An official report has revealed the scare, and investigators have been unable to establish what the flying object was, but the pilot was attempting to land the plane and was on final approach to the airport in Scotland. He described seeing an orange light just 200 feet away from the Airbus A320, which can carry up to 186 passengers. UK Airprox Board, which assesses aircraft near misses, confirmed the object was a UFO. The pilot of the plane was not forced to take any avoiding action of the object, which was less than 200 feet from the aircraft. It was described as traveling in the opposite direction of the Airbus by the plane's captain. UFO sightings are often associated with claims of alien spacecraft by ET hunters. In this case, it was just described as a UFO. However, the term UFO...
They were flying over Scotland, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hello, this is your captain. In case you didn't know us, we had a near miss with a very large UFO that just blew past us. But there's nothing to be afraid about, you wee pansies. Now hike up your skirts, grab a drink, and shut the hell up. I've got to fly the plane.
That's a plane I'd want to be on.
Yeah, that's the Scottish way, Tim. They'll just knock that plane out of the UFO out of the sky and keep moving.
That's right. However, the term UFO can refer to a number of items and simply mean it's not known what the flying object was.
Hence, meaning unidentified.
Exactly. The pilot of the Airbus attempting to land in Glasgow at 1:50 a.m. on May, it says, said he believed the object was a drone that high up. Passengers were left in chaos after a drone strayed into Gatwick Airport's airspace back in July. So there you go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there's multiple UFO flight sightings this week.
Yeah, there are. It says there are.
Yeah, there are.
I've been,
there are.
Well, Usher and Little John were in town at the Minnesota State Fair, so I've been talking like that ever since.
Oh, God.
Yeah. A mom and 6 kids saw a flying saucer before three bearings Dave got out. I can't stop doing it. 3 burns got out. A mother and 6 children claimed to see a flying saucer landed on the ground before 3 very tall men in silver suits appeared beside it. Evidently, they were from Lost in Space, Dave. The three beings.
Warning, Will Robinson. Danger, danger. Shut up, you bubble-headed booby.
The bizarre sighting is said to have happened in Normanton, West Yorkshire, when one of the children ran into the kitchen and told the mom a plane had landed in a field. Joyce Westerman and all 6 children were interviewed by UFO investigators and gave a similar account. The case has been detailed, but it should be detained, but it was detailed by veteran British UFO investigator Philip Mantle as his most memorable investigation as he prepares to retire from the UFO conference scene. He said accounts of UFOs allegedly landing and their apparent occupants being observed as well as is remarkably rare, but I investigated such an account with my colleague Mark Birdsall of the Yorkshire UFO Society. It has stayed with me ever since, he went on to say. Mr. Mantle said he was told it was around mid-afternoon when her 8-year-old daughter ran into the house shouting and crying and telling her mother to come quick. An airplane has just landed in the field. He said just a matter of a few hundred yards away, in the field adjacent to her house, she saw an object on the ground. It was a dull gray color and had the appearance of a Mexican hat. I think that's a sombrero lady. And funny enough, that was coming from the UFO. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was it bouncing up on suspensions?
It was, yeah. It was kind of bouncing from side to side. And yeah.
Nice.
Around the object stood 3 very tall men, all of whom appeared to be dressed in silver suits. How convenient.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's good that they're coordinated.
It is, yeah.
Could be like an alien boy band or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah. In stars. These men seemed to be pointing to a dark instrument on the ground. He said the witnesses described it as looking like a torch with no light. I don't know what that is.
Looking like a torch with no light, I think is what they mean.
Maybe. Mr. Mantle added the uniforms the men wore were metallic silver and would crease when the men moved. They said the men then went to the rear of the craft and it rose vertically, stopped in midair, and then shot off at an angle at a high rate of speed. Mr. Mantle said all of the witnesses stated quite clearly that both upon landing and departure, this object never made a sound. Needless to say, they were speechless. All 6 of Mrs. Westerman's children related similar accounts to the reporter. There were minor discrepancies, but we expected to find that from different people. I've often been asked by people down the years which one UFO case is the best one I've come across, and I have to say that Mrs. Westerman and her 6 children is the one that, for many reasons, is always at the top of my list. The events happened in early summer of 1979. Mr. Mantle will recount this and a number of UFO cases at the Outer Limits Magazine UFO Conference in Hull on September 9th.
All right. How many more stories do we have, sir?
Looks like we've got 4 more.
4 more stories. All right. And I think we're going into some conspiracy and some cryptos, if I remember correctly. What have we got going on?
Well, we'll talk
about... We continue our terrifying fear of airplanes and mishaps. Yes. This is probably one of the biggest ones in recent history. What's going on with MH370? Well,
MH370 has to do with the assassination of the Malaysian consul Zahid Raza and a conspiracy with MH370. Revelations that a Malaysian diplomat murdered in Madagascar last week was tasked with transporting pieces of suspected MH370 wreckage to investigators in Malaysia has fueled more dark conspiracy theories about the missing plane. Honorary Consul of Malaysia Zahid Raza was gunned down in the center of the island nation's capital in an apparent assassination on August 24th. American adventurer Detective Blaine Gibson who has been gathering suspected MH370 debris as it washes up on Madagascar and Mozambique, said Mr. Raza had been due to deliver new items to Malaysian investigators in Kuala Lumpur when he was unexpectedly slain. The timing has rattled Mr. Gibson, who says he has been receiving death threats because of his self-financed mission to solve the baffling aviation mystery. He had planned to keep details of his latest finds, which included 2 items he considered particularly promising, under wraps until they had been safely transported off the island, but changed his mind after Mr. Raza was killed. For the protection of those involved, we decided not to make this report public until the debris was safely delivered to Malaysia, Mr. Gibson reported in his blog. However, tragic events have intervened. Under the agreement between the 2 countries, debris is supposed to be collected by the Honorable Zahid Raza, the honorary Malaysian consul in Madagascar, and delivered by private courier to Malaysia. On August 24th, the Honorable Zahid Raza was assassinated in the capital. Dr. Victor Ianello, who was an original member of the independent group of specialists that helped the Australian investigators to pinpoint MH370's crash site in the southern Indian Ocean, said Mr. Gibson had good reason to be concerned. Last December, Reuters reported that Mr. Raza assisted Blaine Gibson in transferring the custody of pieces believed to be from MH370 to Madagascar to Malaysia. Dr. Ianello wrote in his blog about the disturbing chain of events. At that time, 6 pieces were transferred. This has raised questions as to whether there was a link between those MH370 parts and Mr. Raza's death. What makes a possible link to MH370 even more suspicious is that in the time period surrounding his death, Mr. Raza was expected to visit the Malagasy Ministry of Transport, retrieve additional recovered pieces, and deliver those pieces to Malaysia. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 vanished on March 8, 2014, en route to Kuala Lumpur to Beijing with 239 crew and passengers, including 6 Australians on board. Multiple pieces of wreckage, including a barnacle-encrusted flaperon, the iconic no-step piece, and at least one section of interior cabin have been confirmed as having come from the missing Boeing 777 after washing up on islands off Africa's southeastern coast.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. All right, where are we going next, sir?
Next, we will talk about, let's see here. I got a little bit of an ad that popped up. A mysterious brain-like blob found in a lagoon.
Oh, yeah. Yet another reason to never go swimming outdoors again. Have you seen this thing? It's creepy looking.
I have. It does look a little bizarre. Mm-hmm. I don't know. If I stepped on this thing in the water, I might not go back in for about 30 minutes. But
that's all?
Yeah, about 30.
What, did you go back to have a snack and you can't swim for 30 minutes?
Yeah,
what?
That's exactly what it was. I'd probably go out for a burger and come back. Scientists are unsure if warming temperatures are causing the bizarre invertebrates to spread. Oh, yes, it looks like a brainy blob. It's a gelatinous, mucus-like creature lurking in rivers and lakes, and it's called a bryozoan. I think I knew a kid named bryozoan back in the day, actually, in school. Recently, they were spotted for the first known time in Stanley Park in Vancouver, British Columbia, when low water levels made them more visible. Selena Starnes from the Stanley Park Ecological Society recently examined the specimen found in the area's Lost Lagoon, a small body of water in the southern part of the park. In video created by the Vancouver Courier, Starnes shows the brownish-green mass jiggling as it's pulled from the water. How fun! It's cute. Like a Pokemon, Dave. In a phone call with National Geographic, Starnes explains that the creatures have a gelatinous firm quality, almost like Jell-O. Bryozoan clumps like these are actually hundreds of creatures living together in a colony, all together in harmony. A single organism, known as a zooid, is only a fraction of a millimeter. Zooids are hermaphroditic. Aw, that's cute. But spread thanks to statoblasts, a clump of cells found on the organism that can reproduce asexually if broken off from the colony. This sounds a lot like my sex life, I'm not going to lie. Fossil records date ancient marine bryozoans as far as 470 million years. The species found in Stanley Park is commonly called a magnificent bryozoan. That's the name of my new band. And was previously...
It's magnificent!
and was previously only known to exist in areas east of the Mississippi River. Where did they come from, you may ask? From hell, according to Dave. Otherwise, they're... they come from a climate change, according to the Fish and Wildlife Service.
More climate change shenanigans.
Yep. Whether or not the creatures are an invasive species has been a subject of debate among scientists. A 2012 report from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service theorized that climate change could be helping the creatures spread. Zooids can only survive in waters warmer than roughly 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and the report states that the warming temperatures allow bryozoans to spread north. The lumps filter feed on algae and nutrient-rich waters, and an increase in their numbers could upset the ecological balance of a freshwater ecosystem. They've also been found to clog pipes. I've clogged a pipe or two in my day too, but I'm no bryozoan. I'll tell you that. It's possible, however, that bryozoans have simply gone unnoticed. The creatures are difficult to find, and their muddy color helps them camouflage in murky waters. Starnes says they're sometimes confused with a batch of salamander eggs or rocks. We doubt this is the first time they've been here, she said. Ian Walker, a biology professor at the University of British Columbia who has studied bryozoans, thinks that there isn't enough research to conclusively state whether or not the species has moved north. It's something that could have been easily overlooked in the past, he said. He noted that bryozoans have been found just west of Vancouver in the Okanagan Valley. He says, I think we're near the northern limit of them. With warming climate, they might migrate somewhere farther north, said Walker. I can only really speculate how they might have spread. And there you go.
Hey, I did get an email from a listener during the show here. If you don't mind, sure. I'm going to read this real quick.
Uh-huh.
Experts are studying a mysterious aluminum object that could date back 250,000 years. Some people are speculating it might be part of a UFO, Tim. Have you heard about this?
No,
A fragment of aluminum that appears to have been made by hand is being claimed as 250,000-year-old evidence that aliens once visited Earth in the long-distant past. Metallic aluminum was not being produced by mankind until about 200 years ago, so this find of a large chunk that could be around 250,000 years old is held as a sensational discovery. The exact details of the find were never made public at the time for the reason that the metal was excavated in communist Romania back in 1973. Now, the discovery was made when builders that were working on the shores of Muirs River found three objects that were 33 feet, 10 meters underground. This river is not far from the central Romanian town of Iod. The pieces look unusual and very odd, and archaeologists were brought to view them immediately and identified two of the objects as fossils. But the third piece seemed to be man-made metal, and even though it is very light, it was suspected that it may have been from the end of an axe. All three objects were sent together to be further analyzed by archaeologists in Cluj, the main city of Romanian region of Transylvania. They quickly determined that the two large bones had belonged to an extinct mammal that died out around, 90,000 years ago, Tim. The third object stunned the experts since it was a piece of lightweight metal and seemed to have been manufactured. According to tests, the object is made out of about 12 different metals, but it was 90% aluminum. The Romanian officials dated the object as being 250,000 years old. First results were later confirmed by a lab located in Lausanne, Switzerland. Later, other experts conducted tests and said that this could be wrong. The age could range between 400 and 80,000 years old. Even if the object is 400 years old, that would still be 200 years before aluminum was known to have been first produced. How crazy is that?
Very.
Yeah, there's a heated debate around whether this object is probably UFO and is evidence of aliens having visited our civilization in the past. The deputy director of the Romanian Ufologists Association, Jorge Johal, told the local media that lab results concluded that it is an old UFO fragment, given that the materials could not have been combined with the technology that's available on Earth at the time. The local historian Mihai Wittenberger has claimed that the item is actually a metal piece from a World War II German aircraft. Well, who wants to hear logic? Come on.
Yeah.
However, this does not explain the actual age of the artifact. That's what the Daily Record has reported. The metal object is now on display inside the History of Museum of Cluj-Napoca, with the full history that the cause of the heated debate. It was noted that museum officials added a sign that states the origin is still unknown. Maybe one day we will be able to find out exactly where this mysterious object originated. How cool is that?
Very.
Maybe I'm just easily swayed, but that's pretty cool when you find these out of date and out of time pieces of technology.
Mm-hmm. Very much.
All right. I'm sorry. Go back to it now. I know you've got more stories to share. I just wanted to mention that one while we could.
I got two more.
Okay.
The first one, it's a bumper crop year for Nessie sightings.
Okay.
I didn't know that we were keeping track. It's much like Barrows and Gilts and
it is. Remember, I think it was 2015, 2016. They were actually worried because there were so few sightings of Nessie taking place. Remember that?
Yep.
So 2017 seems to be a bumper crop year.
It's a bumper crop. They're happy that Nessie is back and back again, much like Shady, like Slim Shady, I guess. I don't know. So
Nessie's back again. Yeah.
6 monster sightings in 8 months, Dave. We're excited. We're throwing parties. We're having Nessie sighting parties now, I guess, on Loch Ness. It's $1,000 a bottle for champagne.
Well, my invitation must have gotten lost.
Yeah, mine too. I haven't.
That does seem a bit pricey.
It is a little, yeah. Sightings of the exclusive or elusive, not exclusive, although 6 sightings in 8 months is pretty exclusive. Sightings of the elusive Loch Ness monster are set for a bumper season after a 6th reported appearance this year. The fabled Loch monster, affectionately known as Nessie, is usually spotted around 6 times in an entire year, but the official Loch Ness Monster Sightings Register reveals that number was reached earlier this month. The beast was spotted near Inverness Highland when a tourist from England noticed something huge in the water. According to the Sightings Register operated by records keeper Gary Campbell, the man was with 3 friends at the Doris Inn. When they spotted the creature, the register stated Mr. Stuperick and 3 friends were out walking from the Doris Inn at Tor Point. As they came to the shore on the point, all 4 saw something huge in the water. They said it was an unusual shape. It arced out of the water and then turned and went down underwater. The sighting took place at 3:41 p.m. and lasted about 10 seconds. The sighting on August 22nd comes after another appearance from Nessie at the live Loch Ness webcam. A woman from Canada was keeping a close eye on the live streaming webcam last month when she spotted something in the loch. The sightings register stated Paula from Canada took a video from the Loch Ness webcam at 7 p.m. It shows an unknown object moving slowly north on the loch near Urquhart. Is it Urquhart Castle, I believe?
Mm-hmm.
Well
done. Look at you.
Well, I've done no studying whatsoever since.
It's hard to tell.
Well, thank you. Well, on the 22nd of June, the register noted Mr. Jackson and his wife visiting from Australia snapped something in the loch 4 miles south of Urquhart Castle on at 5:18 p.m. In the afternoon. The sighting lasted about 5 minutes. Another sighting was registered by Paula from Canada on June 12th, again from the live webcam. The report read, Paula from Canada took a 5-minute video from the Loch Ness webcam at 11:20 a.m.
I seen it, and I videotaped it over here, don't you know? Yeah.
I think Paula's kind of lonely and doesn't own any cats. That's what I think.
Is a thing? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
That's what it is. There we go.
Yeah, lots of other sightings here. They first sighting of the year took place on April 28th, according to the report. A Miss Kearney from Dunbartonshire was at the loch with 3 of her friends when they saw a 20-meter-long series of waves move about at 5 miles an hour along the surface, 500 meters out. It came out of nowhere and then disappeared the same way. They have confirmed that there was no boat traffic in the area. Boat traffic, Dave. Boat. Yeah. The sighting then took place at 3 p.m. from a lay-by on the A82 road between... No, I'm not even going to pronounce those names. And Inverness. In 2016, there were 7 sightings of the monster, while Nessie had a quiet 2015, appearing only 5 times. So there you go. And finally, a place called Burling Gap, if it'll ever come up on my screen here, has had a strange mist. A strange chemical mist. Let me clarify here. About 150 people have been treated in the hospital and hundreds more affected by an unknown gas which hit the East Sussex coast. Burling Gap Beach was evacuated on Sunday after people reported breathing difficulties, stinging eyes, and vomiting when a mist appeared. Sussex police said on Monday morning, the gas cloud appeared to have cleared. Agencies are investigating the cause and have not ruled out either onshore or offshore locations. In the past, chemicals have drifted across European industrial units, but Sussex police said weather models suggest that an onshore source in northern France is very unlikely. The Coast Guard said it was working with its French counterparts and looking into vessels that were in the area at the time. East Sussex Fire and Rescue Service said it was extremely unlikely that the substance involved was chlorine. Beaches in the area were open as normal on Monday, and thousands were expected to flock to the coast as temperatures reach up to 25 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. 28-year-old Jonathan Hill, who lives close to Burling Gap Beach, said people had begun arriving at the beach on Monday, although it's maybe a little less busy than usual. He said he returned from holiday with his girlfriend at about 4:30 on Sunday and immediately began to suffer. He said, "We got home, threw open the windows to air the house out, and quickly developed stinging eyes. At one point, I couldn't see for about 5 minutes." Bob Jeffrey of the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, Eastbourne Division, said, "Whatever it was, it smelt like burnt plastic. It hung about and didn't move yesterday because there was no wind." The first reports on Sunday came in from Burling Gap between Eastbourne and Seaford just before 5 o'clock, where people reported having irritated eyes. The plume of gas moved eastward along the coast as far as Bexhill. Coast Guard rescue team from Burling Gap, Eastbourne, Bexhill, and New Haven raced to help clear the busy beaches as visitors feared they had been struck by a chlorine leak. Roy Page from East Peckham, Kent, was on the beach at the time. Then what appeared to be a sea mist rolled in from the west. He described it as a colorless, odorless mist that was seriously painful on the eyes. Kyle Crickmore, who was at the Burling Gap Beach with his family, said it emptied within 10 minutes after people began to feel unwell. It was definitely out of the ordinary considering it was a nice, clear, sunny day 10 minutes beforehand. It was stupidly busy and it was a boiling hot day, he said. It emptied in about 10 minutes, which was quite staggering considering the amount of people who were there. Long lines built up at Eastbourne General District Hospital well into the evening, with approximately 150 people being treated. East Sussex Healthcare NHS Trust went on to quote that as well. Initially, patients were dealt with as a precaution with a full decontamination treatment, but it became clear that this was not necessary following clinical advice. Members of the public alerted emergency services, which triggered call-outs to the UK Coast Guard, Sussex Police, Southeastern Ambulance Services, and East Sussex Fire and Rescue Service, who said they were treating it as a chemical incident. So there you go.
That's kind of creepy.
Yeah, very, very creepy.
That's very, very creepy that's going on. Hey, I know we're up against a break. I do want to make a mention. Stay tuned because during ParaShare, I'm going to tell you my own story. And this is one that just played out in the last couple of weeks, Tim, and culminated with an amazing discovery last Tuesday. And I know you've been on, I've kept you on the hook here to tell you what the story is. Mm-hmm. But it may be the message I've been waiting for from my mom all along. So we'll talk about that when we return.
Beyond the darkness.
Hello, welcome back. This is Supernatural News, ParaShare Monday. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, along with me, Supernatural News correspondent Tim Dennis. Tim, we've got a friend of ours joining the show tomorrow.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, our friend, comedian, writer, author, actress, you name it, she's done it. Brett Butler is back. She's also a medium, if you didn't know that. You can find more information about Brett on our website, and we'll make sure to have links up for her because she does readings. So if you're interested in medium reading, she can help you connect with the other side. She's been doing this for a number of years as part of our show. And tomorrow we're just going to touch base with her and talk about all different aspects of the paranormal that fascinate her. She has been having some really unique visitations recently and some personal ones too. So we're going to talk about those as we're talking about my mom. She had some interesting stories to regale me with. So we will talk with Brett Butler tomorrow. It's great to have her back on in her first visit with us here on Beyond the Darkness. All right, Tim. So here's the situation.
Okay.
You know, my mom passed away in November, and I've been waiting for a signal. I've been waiting for a sign anywhere sign, Tim. And I just have felt so disconnected. You know, I mean, I have my mom's remains here, not the body, Tim. I'm not Norman Bates, but I have her urn sitting prominently in our living room where the family spends most of our time. And I have her remains right there with us in this beautiful angel urn. And you would think being even that close, I would sense something. I sense nothing, which has really made this very hard for me. Now, there have been a few things, and we've talked a little bit about it on the show in the past, of possible moments of making some kind of connection. But I just haven't been that overwhelmingly convinced yet that it's happened. And I'm not sure that I have right now, but I'm going to tell you an interesting story.
Okay.
So before I left for my England trip, about a week or two before that, my cousin Liz reached out to me, and she said she's our family genealogist. She is so into genealogy and ancestry, and she has been really diligent in trying to put together a very massive family tree. This is a major passion for her. Well, she had asked my mom to do the DNA testing through Ancestry.com. And what's really interesting is the fact that, you know, she had asked my mom to do it. Unfortunately, my mom got very sick and could never comply. So she ended up not giving the DNA sample. Well, lo and behold, here it is, almost a year since my mom passed away. And my cousin out of the blue decides, well, you know what, maybe I can have Dave do it. Okay. So she reaches out to me and she says, hey, Dave, you know, I just need a couple birthdays for our family tree. Make sure I've got all your kids and everything in the right place. And would you be willing to do this DNA test? I've already got it. All you have to do is spit in a cup and send it. Right. And I said, sure. So she sent me the package from Ancestry.com, which comes in a really nice little package. And there's a cup and they give you what to do. And you spit into it and combine it with this chemical and shake it up and send it back. And I sent it just before I left for England. All right. And I came back from England, which was an amazing time, had such a wonderful time. And I'm going to be going back here again in a few weeks. I'm leaving on the 22nd. I'll be going to October 2nd. So you'll have the con again, number one. But I came back and immediately, you know, had like a day off and then went to the Michigan Paracon. And then I got back last Monday back home. And I checked my emails. I tried to answer as many of the emails as I could, and then got the email from Ancestry saying, hey, we received your kit. And click here to find out where we're at. So I clicked it, and it said, you know, we received your kit. It can take up to 2 to 3 weeks to process. Okay. So that's fine. I'm in no hurry. I mean, you know, I'm just doing what I do. So I wake up the next morning, Tuesday morning. And lo and behold, there's an email from Ancestry.com. We've processed your DNA kit. Your results are in. Well, this is exciting, right?
Yeah.
So I click on it, and it goes in, and it gives you all this information. Would you like to know more about your family? Yeah, I click on it, and it shows me this pie chart. And it says, you know, okay, you're this much this much that, and this is where you originate from. Basically, I'm Scottish and German mostly, about, you know, a good half of my background is that. And then it's kind of fragmented, you know, some Scandinavian and French and Irish mixed in there, right? So that's pretty exciting. Then it says DNA. Do you want to know who you're connected to through DNA? Well, who doesn't? I want to find out I'm related to Elvis. Right. You know, I want to find out I'm related to Marie Antoinette, somebody cool and famous along my family line. And I start scrolling through all these names, and most of them you don't recognize because they're 3rd and 4th and 6th and 12th cousins, but I'm still looking for that famous connection, right? And I'm not seeing it. You know, I don't know. And I'm just not seeing it. I'm kind of bummed out by that whole deal. I mean, I see just a bunch of our family, and that's cool. And some, you know, family names that I recognize, some I don't. So, wow, we've made some new connections. And then there's one that kind of stands out to me, and it's right at the top of my list. I'm not quite sure what to make. As I got my DNA results back, and I'm having a hard time understanding one of these bits. Can you help me out? And she says, sure. So she opens up her email, and she's, okay. We knew you were kind of Scottish and German. We knew that. Okay. I said, now look at the DNA. Okay. Well, Dave, it seems you're a dad. You've got a daughter. Did you hear that, Tim?
Well, you have 2 daughters, Dave, don't you?
I have 3 daughters, right? My daughters, Kayla, Ripley, and Pacey. There's another name attached to my file. For her, privacy, I won't mention it on air, but let's just call her Marie. Okay. It says Marie Smith, and I'm like, Marie Smith, and then I'm trying to do some figure in here, and I'm like, what? And I do some due diligence. I find some information on her on Ancestry.com, do a little digging, and lo and behold, Tim, it turns out that your fertile buddy here, the woman he lost his virginity to, he did more than just lost his virginity. He seems to have impregnated her, and she gave the child up for adoption. And she had assumed it was her boyfriend. Yes, Tim, I was a young heartbreaker at the time. Apparently,
I see.
We were good friends. Literally, we were like best friends. She was just my neighbor friend girl. We did all kinds of stuff together that was non-sexual. And when it came to that, it just seemed sense to, I guess this is, you learn from your friends, right? And she had been around the block, so she took me for a walk a couple times, so I'd know how to get around the block if I was ever out stranded around the block by myself. So
it's one hell of a walk.
Yeah. So for all of these years, she has believed that her ex-boyfriend at the time was the father. And I get this, and I do some research because I realize my daughter has been adopted. I find her age, and then I'm able to pinpoint this. So I, again, using my detective work, I'm quickly pushed over and I go find my friend on Facebook, and I scroll through her friends list, and lo and behold, about 4 or 5 names in is my daughter. And I remember talking to this friend of mine about 10 years ago, and we were shooting the breeze. She's like, oh, by the way, you'll never guess what happened. My daughter found me. Her parents let her reach out to me for her 18th birthday, and she's able to talk and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So she had started this relationship about 10 to 12 years ago with her daughter. And the daughter had reached out to her, who she believed was her biological father as well. So I come along, throw a monkey wrench in the system by spitting in a cup and finding out I'm a dad. And this is all just so weird. I mean, and when you start looking at the timing of it, this is why I think this may be my mom at play. Suddenly, my mom, for some reason, kept putting off doing the DNA test. Then she got cancer and she passed. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that never happened. That connection, that coinkydink never happened. Right.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, 8 months later after my mom's death, my cousin's hit with the idea of, well, I couldn't get Terry to do it. Maybe her son, David, would do this. Mm-hmm. So she calls me. I spit in a cup. 2.5 weeks later, I'm the father of a daughter and a 5-year-old grandson. Who knew that that's how you have babies, Tim? You spit in a cup, bam, you're a dad.
Wow.
So I reached out to the mom, talked to her, and we were both blown away by this. We had a good laugh and chuckle over it. And the only sad part is that, another man for the last 34 years believed he was her father, and he's established a very nice relationship with her over the last 12 years. Mm-hmm. And that had to all be kind of confronted, but everybody's getting along, and she would like to be a part of my life, and my kids have spoken with her. I've spoken with her. We have had a chance to video chat, and I'm going to get a chance to meet my daughter very soon.
Very cool.
And my grandson. And it was funny. She's like, as we're talking about interesting bits of our life, she's like, and well, maybe you could tell me where this fascination for my son for Godzilla came from. And then I quickly take a photograph of the Godzilla tattoo that I have on my left arm. And she goes, well, now it all makes sense. And so it's really kind of exciting and fun. But I kind of feel like this was nudged along. I mean, it just so happens my daughter 2 months ago spits in a cup, and then I'm asked to spit in a cup. Yeah. That's kind of intriguing. And then as an aside, now my friend, the mother, we were very big into the Monkees, and when I was trying to call her, I'm thinking, well, what am I going to say? If I get her voicemail, how do I get her to call me back? If I drop this bomb, I may not make a connection here. So I just said, hey, I'm going to be, my friend, it's been a while. I'm going to be hosting Coast to Coast AM on the 15th and 16th of September. And on the 15th, Mike Nesmith will be my guest. And this friend and I went and met Mike Nesmith back in like 86, 87. So I said, this is going to be great. You should call me. We should talk. So I got her to call me, and under false pretenses, but we got a chance to talk about this, and she called my daughter and paved the way, and that's what opened up this opportunity for us to talk. But what are the odds that all of these things came into play? When I threw out the invitation, Tim, for Coast to Coast, I wanted to do a different kind of show. I wanted to do something on rock and roll music for an episode, because Coast to Coast, although they cover a lot of the fringe and supernatural, they are a variety show, and they talk about a myriad of topics. And I wanted to do something a little different than just the paranormal recently. So, we've done some sci-fi TV, we've done some true crime, we've done some paranormal. So I thought it'd be great to do rock and roll. So I threw out 3 invitations to 3 rock legends, Bobby Hart, the musician and music author and composer, and then Henry Diltz, the famed rock photographer, and Mike Nesmith. And I figured if I could get one of them to respond, it would be great. Well, Bobby responded, Henry responded, that booked up last month's show. Mike Nesmith then responded and said, yes, he'd love to do the show. And we had to push that off to September, which will be right in time for the 51st anniversary of the Monkees. Well, my mom loved the Monkees as well. So it just seems like everything coalesced at the right time, at the right moment. And I just can't help but feel that Mom knew that there was this one piece of my life puzzle that was still missing. And my mom, as you know, loves her grandchildren more than anything.
Oh, yes.
And I can't help but think that when she crossed over and found out that there was a missing Schrader, that she didn't move these puzzle pieces behind the scenes and put together a complete family portrait for me. And the only tragedy is this young lady grew up 12 miles from my parents.
Oh, no.
And never got to know my mom. And that's the real tragedy of this. But the positivity is that I have another beautiful daughter and a beautiful, amazing grandson. And my life has gotten so much more interesting and exciting. My fiance is excited about it. My children are excited about it. And it's just a really remarkable time. So I'm not sure it's my mom, but it sure feels like a lot of things moved behind the scenes to make this happen in kind of a supernatural way. Coincidence is one thing. This just seems unbelievable. I mean, again, if one of us didn't spit in that cup, we would have never known.
Right.
But both of us did within a few months of one another. Mm-hmm. And all of these other parts of the stories aligned. So that's my ParaShare for this week. So, Uncle Chick, you are an uncle to a very beautiful young lady who lives in Illinois, is my daughter, and that makes you a great uncle to her beautiful little son as well. So the family just keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, it does.
And now that I've spit in a cup, God knows what else is going to come knocking on my door eventually, Tim. But I'm very excited and so in love with my daughter and grandson. It's just such a great piece of my heart now in place. And it's been a very exciting and strange week, to say the least. But you never know what's missing in your life until you find that piece. And she was a piece of my heart that I didn't know wasn't out there. So it's really a nice fit. And I couldn't be more excited about this change.
Well, congratulations. That's a great story. Thank you. A heartwarming story. And I think you're right. Yeah. I think your mom did move pieces behind the scenes. There's no such thing as coincidence, my friend. There is no such thing. So I believe that's how it happened.
Well, that's what they try to tell me. Interesting stuff, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like I said, that just so many things came into play, and all of and here was the other thing. When she had just posted on like a week ago all of her information on LinkedIn. That's how I found her contact information and her birth date and knew everything about her, to find her on Facebook and find all of these connections. So again, all of these things pushed into play. What made her sign up? Even she doesn't know. What made her sign into LinkedIn? What made her, spit in the cup at this time? And it just all coalesced and came together in a really remarkable way. So I want to thank my cousin Liz and my mom for working behind the scenes on this from heaven or earth or wherever she's hanging out, because it's a pretty remarkable gift to finally have the whole puzzle pieces put together, and hopefully at some point in the near future, I will share a portrait. And it was funny, Tim, as I'm scrolling through we started chatting immediately, my daughter and I, and we're Facebook friends, which is the way it goes. And, there's definite family resemblance. And my fiance and I just came back from Michigan Paracon, where we're cuddled up together making silly faces. And I find, like, in the fourth or fifth picture on her page, almost an identical picture of her and her boyfriend. And my daughter's making the same face I am. So it was just like, are you kidding me with this? And we've just enjoyed laugh after laugh about the strange coincidences and realities of our lives now. So that's my story. So Ancestry.com is bringing people together. If you haven't done it, spit in a cup, find out what your life has in store for you. How's that for a commercial for Ancestry.com?
That's pretty impressive.
All right, let's get to a couple emails before we wrap up for the holiday. And remember, tomorrow, Brett Butler's back with us, and we'll be talking all aspects to the paranormal, plus some really interesting and heart-touching stories. Hey, Dave and Tim, I'll try to make this as short as I can. I'm a big fan of the show. Started listening once you jumped on the Jericho Network here on Podcast One. I got a story for you about a ghost I dealt with once. I lived there for almost 6 years. It was the house my now wife grew up in. She had her own experience as a child, but doesn't like to talk about them. I would always get this feeling, and the back of my neck would tense up whenever I was around or about to show itself. It was mostly at night. I would see a shadow person down the hallway to the right of the TV. It sometimes would lean out of my mother-in-law's room and look down at me, or sometimes it would walk across from her room to the den. I should add, the hallway was only illuminated by red lights on one side of the hallway. I would always know if it was my mother-in-law. She actually made noise. One of the last nights I dealt with it, it consumed all of the light in the hallway and started to make its way towards me. And just as fast as it came, it pulled back and the light returned. Once, while I was sitting in my room with the door open, I felt my neck tense up. I sat right up and said in a stern voice, "This is my room. You're not welcome here. Leave now and never come back, or you'll be sorry." The feeling faded, and it never came back to my room. My mother-in-law talks about how a spirit has followed her for years. I'm not sure if it was a spirit of something more. Either way, when we moved, I stood in the living room and said out loud, "We're moving. You're not coming with us. Stay here. Do not follow, or else." We've been in the new house almost 4 months and nothing so far, knock on wood. I have one more for you in the future. I just need to figure out how to word it right. Keep up the good work, and looking forward to all you have in store. That comes from Steve in California. Well, at least that was a nicer way to tease us with another story.
Yeah.
Right? So, I've got more to tell, but that's for another day. We'll wait for your follow-up email, Steve. Thank you for sharing that one. All right, let's see. Hello, Tim and Dave. Ooh, you're getting first billing an awful lot here. Wow. My name is Jeremy, 31-year-old factory worker that has had a few paranormal experiences that began when I was 3 years old. My first experience happened when I lived in a mobile home community, upscale trailer park. That's what it says in parentheses. I'd fallen asleep on the couch in the living room while my father watched TV at night. My parents would regularly just leave me on the couch since it was easier to let me sleep instead of waking me up and then dealing with trying to get me back to bed. As a father, I've been there and done that, Tim. I remember waking up because I felt like I had been punched on the shoulder. When I rolled over to see what hit me, I was met with the face of something I still can't fully describe. It was human and seemed to have black curly hair. The issue was the skin was gray, but also seemed to look like static on a television screen. The eyes were what got me the most. They were yellow. I froze as I watched this person, and they lift their head in what looked like a laugh, but there was no sound. The entity just faded away. And as soon as I calmed down enough, I screamed bloody murder like only a toddler can. My father, who at the time was a very large man at almost 400 pounds, came tearing down the hallway fast enough that I couldn't believe it. My father was and is still a deeply religious person and a skeptic. However, when I told him what happened, he never made any negative comment. In fact, he stayed up with me for about an hour and was asking me questions about what occurred. I now attribute this to my father's time as an MP in the Army. My parents never denied the existence of the paranormal and have since that incident encouraged my exploration of the paranormal. I have better stories and will email more, but I'll leave on one more. My father told me one time when I was 15 that he truly didn't personally believe in the paranormal until after we had moved out of the mobile home community. He was moved out of the trailer we lived in and had gone to an apartment complex at the other side of our town. The first week we were in the new apartment, my father asked me personally if I felt anything in our new apartment. Our trailer was super active with low-level stuff like voices. I told him I actually felt weird in the apartment because it felt empty. That's when I was alone. I felt like I was actually alone. My father told me he felt like he was being watched at all times in the apartment, and that it was almost like there was someone behind him waiting to yell and scare him. He told me that it just unnerved him. He also added that when my sisters or myself weren't around, that he would get anonymous phone calls where he would just get static on the line and maybe hear a distant voice. He knew this wasn't my sisters or I because we wouldn't be mysterious like that in a prank. My father has since moved from that apartment, and I have moved in to a different state. We still talk about paranormal stuff and have even planned to visit to Eastern State Penitentiary. My father lives in Philadelphia. Thank you for your time. And that comes from our buddy, Jeremy. Thank you for sharing that, Jeremy. It kind of reminds me, Tim, when I was after my divorce, I'd moved out and I was staying in an apartment up in Shoreview, Minnesota. And had been living there for quite a while. And oh my God, our upstairs neighbor drove me crazy because he walked all the time. And it was like he paced back and forth and around. And he'd only be quiet during the day for maybe about 4 or 5 hours a day. And I'm guessing that's when he slept. But the pacing was so loud and obnoxious. I finally started complaining, and they just kind of blew me off and ignored me. And then finally, I caught one of the managers in the hallway at night. And I said, "Come here." And she goes, "What?" And I go, "You need to hear this." She comes into my apartment, and you could hear the boom, 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 boom. This woman's face, white, Tim. She goes to me, and she goes, "I'm going to go get security, Dave. Nobody lives up there. Nobody's lived up there in a year. We just thought you were trying to be a pain in the ass." I'm like, "No, this has been going on." And her eyes were monstrous, how huge they were. And she was just shaking her head. She's like, "I don't want to go up there." I'm like, "Well, I'm not going up there. You go check it." So they took security up there and checked, and it was an empty apartment. But you could hear the footsteps every night walking and walking and walking above me.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Dave and Tim. I hope you're both doing well. I've been a fan since you joined the Jericho Network on Podcast One. Wow, lots of advertising for the Jericho Network on Podcast One. I love the Alien and Black Eyed Kids content. I think those are so fascinating. I need to start this story out by saying I'm a skeptic. Before this experience, I thought ghost stories were all hallucinations or just false awakenings. That all being said, here we go. I grew up in an upper duplex in a suburb of Montreal. I had moved my room from the smallest bedroom to the second largest bedroom when my sister moved out a few years ago. I had a queen-size bed on a slight angle with my head at the window and my feet facing the closet mirror doors. Yeah, mirror doors. I know. In a teenager's room? Don't get excited, though. No action ever happened in that room. So my bedroom door was on the wall to the right when laying down. It was not far in the right corner, right next to the closet. I usually slept with the door closed just to reduce the light and noise, as I'm a light sleeper. I remember waking up from a really nice dream suddenly, and I felt sluggish and almost as if I was experiencing sleep paralysis. I was able to move a bit, but it felt difficult. I had no idea why I had woken up. No noise, no change in light, and a few seconds into this, I saw a slight glow at my door. It grew a little brighter. Then I saw it, a form of a person. Unsure to this day if it was a man or a woman. It had its head at about 6 feet tall. It was wearing material all tattered, long sleeveless arms with torn material down to its upper elbow. It had no legs. The body stopped around the lower torso with more tattered material. The material was waving lightly. Some seemed to be moving as if static electricity was pulling it upwards, defying gravity. As it hovered or glided through the door, it seemed headed for the wall in front of it, not aware of me. Then suddenly it snapped its head and its gaze in my direction. As it did so, it opened its mouth and hissed with a hoarse voice. Gah! It immediately accelerated at me before it had half started that hiss. I don't remember its mouth much, but the eyes were a glowing pale blue. The instant it turned to me, I felt that fight or flight instinct kick in. As I was in bed, sitting up at this point, flight was not an option. I felt a rush of adrenaline tingle up my neck and over my scalp as if dispersed outward over my shoulders and legs. I was a very timid young teenager, not brave or tough enough unless given no choice. I twisted and lunged with a right hook of desperation, and it passed over me as a freezing breeze and faded out as it smacked the vertical blinds behind me, making loud clacking of the plastic blinds hitting the windowsill. Just then, I noticed my cat hiding under my desk, hissing and looking at the window. I called her up for a moment, but she wouldn't come until I went and picked her up. We both calmed down looking at the window, through the oval of frost that was directly behind where I had been sitting. Funny thing about frost is that it doesn't usually form on windows when it's 35 Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit. I tried to convince myself I dreamed of it all, or that I was half asleep, until a friend in high school told me that they see spirits. I felt bad for her, thinking it was a reaction to trauma, but she told me the ones that scare her leave when I'm around, and the nice ones don't. I wonder if my acne scared them off, or it's because of my middle name being Michael. If you ever talk to Dan Aykroyd again, please tell him or ask him if they used firsthand accounts as inspiration for the ghosts in the Ghostbusters movie. Thanks again for keeping me company on my long drives, and that comes from Sean in Montreal. Sean, yes, I do know for a fact that they use some of the real-life encounters. As a matter of fact, I believe you can find the story online. Dan Aykroyd talks about a house that he lived in Los Angeles where he would feel a female ghost sidling up to him once in a while. He said it was never anything weird, but it was definitely affectionate. And if you remember that scene where he's in the fire station and he wakes up and the ghost is unzipping his fly, I think that was definitely one of those type of stories. Well, Tim, that's about it for this week. I think we've got a lot of stories going, and we've got a lot more to share in the future and a lot more supernatural news to cover. Tomorrow, we're back with Brett Butler, and we'll be talking about all aspects of the paranormal.
Absolutely. You know what, Dave, before we go, though, you were talking about Dan Aykroyd and you were talking about aliens. There's a brand new way to watch Ancient Aliens now on History, on the History Channel.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And it's on history.com or in the History app. You can watch full episodes there anytime. You can catch up on episodes you missed. You can rewatch your favorite episodes by going to history.com or in the History app. Ancient Aliens, of course, explores the controversial theory that extraterrestrials have visited Earth for millions of years, from the age of the dinosaurs to ancient Egypt, from early cave drawings to continued mass sightings in the U.S. Each episode gives historic depth to the questions, speculations, provocative controversies, firsthand accounts, and grounded theories surrounding this age-old debate. Did intelligent beings from outer space visit Earth thousands of years ago? You can find out. Go there right now, history.com or in the History app, and catch up on full episodes of Ancient Aliens.
I love the History app. As a matter of fact, I just caught up because I was traveling so much and didn't get a chance to get home. I caught up on the American Ripper series on History Channel with Jeff Mudgett talking about the possible connections of H.H. Holmes and Jack the Ripper. Fascinating series, really remarkable, and it was great. And just watched the last episode. If you haven't seen it, check it out on the History Channel or on History Channel app. You guys are going to love it. Plus, I'm going to be talking with Amaryllis Fox, the investigator, and Jeff Mudgett, the great-great-grandson of H.H. Holmes, possibly the Jack the Ripper. We'll be talking together again on Saturday the 16th on Coast to Coast AM. They will be my guest in the first 2 hours. And then we've got another true crime guest that'll be joining me for the last 2 hours, Tim. And she has a very unique story involving a friendship with two other serial killers. You're going to want to tune in to check those out. Remember, if you want to listen to me on Coast to Coast AM, you can find more information at coasttocoastam.com. Then find the Stations tab, and you'll be able to listen to us. So again, coasttocoastam.com/stations. You'll find stations around the United States and on XM Sirius and other ways that you can listen to the show and never miss another minute in the best in overnight talk radio. I host 2 to 4 times a month, and I'd love for you to keep up with me there. For Tim Dennis, I'm Dave Schrader. You've been listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness.